This episode of Explainiac is brought to you by Nintendo's The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Here's everything you need to know about The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Welcome to Explainiac. I'm Dan Casey, and today we're diving deep into the world of The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening game so you can know what to expect when it comes to the Nintendo Switch system on September 20th. So let's hop to it, shall we? You know, like Link says with the sword? Anyway. Originally released in 1993 for the Game Boy system, The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening began its life as a port of the Super NES game, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, but then it morphed into its own delightful entity in the process. Now it's been lovingly and painstakingly rebuilt from the ground up for a new generation of gamers to experience its wild world in all of its seaside glory. The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening is unique in that it's one of the few Legend of Zelda titles that does not take place in Hyrule. Rather, it takes place on Koholint Island. It's a beautiful but deadly land that's kind of like if an all-inclusive resort were overrun by moblins. While The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild broke the Legend of Zelda conventions open, The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening features more classic gameplay, but with a twist. The game is unique because, contrary to what you might expect from a game called The Legend of Zelda, Princess Zelda doesn't actually appear in the game. But worry not, because there's plenty of other lovable characters for you to get to know and other powerful relics to recover. While Link is many things, namely an arch nemesis of unsuspecting clay pots, he's apparently not the best sailor in Hylian history. When Link's boat gets caught in a ferocious storm, he gets shipwrecked and awakens on the sandy shores of the aforementioned Koholint Island. Waterlogged and barely clinging to life, Link's discovered by a young woman named Marin, who alongside her Mario-esque mustachioed father Tarin, nurses Link back to health. Armed with only his shield, it's up to Link to figure out what the heck happened to his sword. When Link discovers where his sword washed up, he's visited by an owl, who charges our hero with collecting the instruments of the sirens from various dungeons in order to wake up the Windfish. It's the guardian spirit of Koholint Island. But the evil nightmares stalking the land will do everything in their power to prevent it. Rebuilt from the ground up with a genuinely adorable new art style that feels reminiscent of tilt-shift photography, the game has an almost diorama-like feel to it. As you explore the overworld, you'll encounter deadly enemies like moblins and buzz blobs, as well as familiar enemies from Mario like Goombas, piranha plants, and chain chomps too. Don't let the cutesy art style fool you though. The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening tells a surreal, engrossing, and delightfully weird story. Case in point, the return of the iconic Color Dungeon. Speaking of dungeons, it's dangerous to go alone, so you'll want to stock up on supplies from Koholint Island's many merchants. Just make sure you don't leave stores without paying for them, unless you want a not-so-kind nickname for the rest of the game. As for the rest of the game, well, the fun doesn't stop once you've beaten it. Inside the depths of the brand new chamber dungeon in Dampé's hut, you'll have the ability to arrange custom dungeons of your own devilish design. As you progress through the game, you'll unlock different chambers from each dungeon that you clear, and then you'll be able to mix and match to your heart's content. And if you snag one of those brand new The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening amiibo, you'll be able to add effects and variants to your chamber dungeon as well. The game will also be compatible with any previous Legend of Zelda amiibo figures, so it looks like your penchant for collecting will finally pay off in spades. And last but not least, if you're anything like me, then you're probably wondering where The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening fits into the sprawling Legend of Zelda timeline. Now, according to Hyrule Historia, the answer is that it takes place in the Fallen Hero timeline, in which Link fails to defeat Ganondorf during the events of The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and is sealed away in the Sacred Realm by the Seven Sages. I know it sounds confusing, but honestly, parsing through The Legend of Zelda's sprawling chronology is half the fun of being a fan of this series. And speaking of timelines, you can pick up a copy of The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening for your Nintendo Switch on September 20th, so start saving your rupees so you can start saving Koholint Island. In the meantime, tell me, will this be your first time playing The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, or your 100th? What would you name your ideal chamber dungeon? Let me know in the comments below and give me a thumbs up while you're there. Thanks again to Nintendo and The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening for sponsoring today's episode. If you like what you saw, please be sure to like and share this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that little notification bell so you never miss a new episode. And if you want even more deep dives, be sure to check out past Explainiac episodes, which you can watch right now wherever fine Nerdist content is streamed. And if you have ideas for a future episode, please leave them in the comments below or tweet me directly at Dan Casey. This is an evolving process, and I want you to be a part of it. And remember, not every everything in life can be explained, but for everything else, there's this show.